Welcome to the Liberty Myself Emancipation Media Club. Today's reading
The
is
Soul of Man Under Socialism by Oscar Wilde.
This is part of our twice-daily content heartbeat designed to help build information autonomy in our algorithm-dominated world. Listen, reflect, and engage however works for you. Without further ado, let's jump in. Stay free.
The Soul of Man Under Socialism by Oscar Wilde. The chief advantage that would result from the establishment of socialism is, undoubtedly, the fact that socialism would relieve us from that sordid necessity of living for others which, in the present condition of things, presses so hardly upon almost everybody. In fact, scarcely anyone at all escapes. Now, nothing should be able to harm a man except himself. Nothing should be able to rob a man at all. What a man really has, is what is in him. What is outside of him should be a matter of no importance. With the abolition of private property, then, we shall have true, beautiful, healthy individualism. Nobody will waste his life in accumulating things, and the symbols for things. One will live. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that is all. It is through joy that we are to find our way to freedom, not through pain. The new individualism, for whose sake socialism is to be welcomed, will be perfect freedom. It will be the freedom of the soul, not the freedom of the body alone. It will be the realization of one's nature, not the subjection of one's nature to external forces. Main sections. Private property has crushed true individualism, and set up an individualism that is false. It has debarred one part of the community from being individual by starving them. It has debarred the other part of the community from being individual by putting them on the wrong road, and encumbering them. Indeed, so completely has man's personality been absorbed by his possessions that the English law has always treated offenses against property more severely than offenses against the person, and property is still the test of complete citizenship. The industry necessary for the making money is also very demoralizing. In a community like ours, where property confers immense distinction, social position, honor, respect, titles, and other pleasant things of the kind, man, being naturally ambitious, makes it his aim to accumulate this property, and goes on wearily and tediously accumulating it long after he has got far more than he wants, or can use, or can enjoy. Man will kill himself by overwork in order to secure property, and really, considering the enormous advantages that property brings, one is hardly surprised. One's regret is that society should be constructed on such a basis that man has been forced into a groove in which he cannot freely develop what is wonderful, and fascinating, and delightful in him, in which, in fact, he misses the true pleasure and joy of living. The true perfection of man lies, not in what man has, but in what man is. Private property has really harmed individualism, and obscured it, by confusing a man with what he possesses. It has led individualism entirely astray. It has made gain not growth its aim. So that man thought that the important thing was to have, and did not know that the important thing is to be. The true individualism is that which the abolition of private property will bring into being. Socialism itself will be of value simply because it will lead to individualism. Socialism, communism, or whatever one chooses to call it, by converting private property into public wealth, and substituting cooperation for competition, will restore society to its proper condition of a thoroughly healthy organism, and ensure the material well-being of each member of the community. It will, in fact, give life its proper basis and its proper environment. But for the full development of life to its highest mode of perfection, something more is needed. What is needed is individualism. If the socialism is authoritarian, if there are governments armed with economic power as they are now with political power, if, in a word, we are to have industrial tyrannies, then the last state of man will be worse than the first. At present, in consequence of the existence of private property, a great many people are enabled to develop a certain very limited amount of individualism. They are either under no necessity to work for their living, or are enabled to choose the sphere of activity that is really congenial to them, and gives them pleasure. These are the poets, the philosophers, the men of science, the men of culture, in a word, the real men, the men who have realized themselves, and in whom all humanity gains a partial realization. Upon the other hand, there are a great many people who, having no private property of their own, and being always on the brink of sheer starvation, are compelled to do the work of beasts of burden. To do work that is quite uncongenial to them, and to which they are forced by the peremptory, unreasonable, degrading tyranny of want. These are the poor, and amongst them there is no grace of manner, or charm of speech, or civilization, or culture, or refinement in pleasures, or joy of life. From their collective force humanity gains much in material prosperity. But it is only the material result that it gains, and the man who is poor is in himself absolutely of no importance. He is merely the infinitesimal atom of a force that, so far from regarding him, crushes him, indeed, prefers him crushed, as in that case he is far more obedient. Of course, it might be said that the individualism generated under conditions of private property is not always, or even as a rule, of a fine or wonderful type, and that the poor, if they have not culture and charm, have still many virtues. Both these statements would be quite true. The possession of private property is very often extremely demoralizing, and that is, of course, one of the reasons why socialism wants to get rid of the institution. In fact, property is really a nuisance. Some years ago people went about the country saying that property has duties. They said it so often and so tediously that, at last, the church has begun to say it. One hears it now from every pulpit. It is perfectly true. Property not merely has duties, but has so many duties that its possession to any large extent is a bore. It involves endless claims upon one, endless attention to business, endless bother. If property had simply pleasures, we could stand it, but its duties make it unbearable. In the interest of the rich, we must get rid of it. The virtues of the poor may be readily admitted, and are much to be regretted. We are often told that the poor are grateful for charity. Some of them are, no doubt, but the best amongst the poor are never grateful. They are ungrateful, discontented, disobedient, and rebellious. They are quite right to be so. Charity they feel to be a ridiculously inadequate mode of partial restitution, or a sentimental dole, usually accompanied by some impertinent attempt on the part of the sentimentalist to tyrannize over their private lives. Why should they be grateful for the crumbs that fall from the rich man's table? They should be seated at the board, and are beginning to know it. As for being discontented, a man who would not be discontented with such surroundings and such a low mode of life would be a perfect brute. Disobedience, in the eyes of anyone who has read history, is man's original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and through rebellion. The note of the perfect personality is not rebellion, but peace. It will be a marvelous thing, the true personality of man, when we see it. It will grow naturally and simply, flower-like, or as a tree grows. It will not be at discord. It will never argue or dispute. It will not prove things. It will know everything, and yet it will not busy itself about knowledge. It will have wisdom. Its value will not be measured by material things. It will have nothing, and yet it will have everything, and whatever one takes from it, it will still have, so rich will it be. It will not be always meddling with others, or asking them to be like itself. It will love them because they are different. And yet while it will not meddle with others, it will help all, as a beautiful thing helps us, by being what it is. The personality of man will be very wonderful. It will be as wonderful as the personality of a child. In the new individualism, the ideal will be the full expression of personality, not the sacrifice of it. The new individualism will not be the old individualism of selfishness, which leads men to accumulate wealth while others starve. Selfishness is not living as one wishes to live, it is asking others to live as one wishes to live. And unselfishness is letting other people's lives alone, not interfering with them. Selfishness always aims at creating around it an absolute uniformity of type. Unselfishness recognizes infinite variety of type as a delightful thing, accepts it, acquiesces in it, enjoys it. It is not selfish to think for oneself. A man who does not think for himself does not think at all. It is grossly selfish to require of one's neighbor that he should think in the same way, and hold the same opinions. Why should he? If he can think, he will probably think differently. If he cannot think, it is monstrous to require thought of any kind from him. A red rose is not selfish because it wants to be a red rose. It would be horribly selfish if it wanted all the other flowers in the garden to be both red and roses. Under the new individualism, people will be perfectly free to be themselves, and to express themselves, without any fear of external pressure or internal inhibition. Art is the most intense mode of individualism that the world has known. I am inclined to say that it is the only real mode of individualism that the world has known. Crime, which, under certain conditions, may seem to have created individualism, must take cognizance of other people and interfere with them. It is a limitation, but art requires no such limitation. The artist is perfectly free. He takes the materials of life and transforms them into shapes and patterns that are the expression of his own personality. The poet, the painter, the sculptor, the musician, all work in freedom, and their work is the perfect expression of their individuality. And the public gain from this, not by copying the artist, but by being enriched by his creation. The moment that an artist takes notice of what other people want, and tries to supply the demand, he ceases to be an artist, and becomes a dull or an amusing craftsman, an honest or a dishonest tradesman. He has no further claim to be considered as an artist. Art is the most splendid form of individualism, because it is the most splendid form of expression of what is unique in the soul. The evolution of man is of a purely spiritual nature. It is an evolution towards individualism. The only thing that one really knows about human nature is that it changes. Change is the one quality we can predicate of it. The systems that fail are those that rely on the permanency of human nature, and not on its growth and development. The error of Louis XIV was that he thought human nature would always be the same. The result of his error was the French Revolution. It was an admirable result. All the results of the mistakes of governments are quite admirable. The only thing that can harm a man is to interfere with his individualism. The only thing that can help a man is to let his individualism develop freely. The true artist is a man who believes absolutely in himself, because he is absolutely himself. But this is not selfishness. Selfishness is limitation. The individualism that socialism will bring will be a full, rich, generous thing, that will make each man more himself by making him more helpful to others, not by making him sacrifice himself for others. Under the new conditions, individualism will be far freer, far finer, and far more intensified than it is now. I am not talking of the great imaginatively realized individualism of such poets as I have mentioned, but of the great actual individualism latent and potential in mankind generally. For the recognition of private property has really harmed individualism, and obscured it by confusing a man with what he possesses. It has led individualism entirely astray. It has made gain not growth its aim. So that man thought that the important thing was to have, and did not know that the important thing is to be. The true perfection of man lies, not in what man has, but in what man is. The form of government that is most suitable to the artist is no government at all. Authority over him and his art is ridiculous. It has been said that the artist treats life in the spirit of an adventurer. That is quite true. Every artist is an adventurer, and must be free to adventure where he will. The public must not dictate to him, nor must the critic, nor must the patron. The artist must be free to create what his soul prompts him to create, and the value of his work will be that it is his own. There are three kinds of despots. There is the despot who tyrannizes over the body. There is the despot who tyrannizes over the soul. There is the despot who tyrannizes over the body and soul alike. The first is called the prince. The second is called the pope. The third is called the people. The prince may be cultivated. Many princes have been, yet they are not desirable. The pope may be cultivated. Many popes have been, yet they are not desirable. The people are never cultivated. They are the worst of all. They are the most dangerous because they are the most ignorant. The prince and the pope at least know something, even if it is wrong. The people know nothing, and in their ignorance they are ruthless. They are the mob, and the mob is always to be feared. In the ideal society, there will be no authority, no government, no mob. There will be individualism, and each man will be free to develop his own personality, to express his own soul. There will be no private property to distort this development, no competition to limit it, no authority to suppress it. Each man will be free to be himself, and to help others by being himself. The ideal society will be a society of artists, in the sense that each man will live his life as a work of art. Creating beauty by being beautiful, creating truth by being true, creating love by being loving. The new individualism, for which socialism is the necessary condition, will be the individualism of the soul. It will be the realization of the soul's infinite possibilities. It will be the freedom to be oneself, and to let others be themselves. It will be the recognition that the soul of man is the most precious thing in the world, and that its development is the only thing that matters. What man has sought for is, indeed, neither pain nor pleasure, but simply life. Man has sought to live intensely, fully, perfectly. When he can do so without exercising restraint on others, or suffering it ever, and his activities are all pleasurable to him, he will be saner, healthier, more civilized, more himself. Pleasure is nature's test, her sign of approval. When man is happy, he is in harmony with himself and his environment. The new individualism, for whose development socialism is necessary, will be such a condition. The recognition of private property has really harmed individualism, and obscured it, by confusing a man with what he possesses. It has led individualism entirely astray. It has made gain not growth its aim. So that man thought that the important thing was to have, and did not know that the important thing is to be. The true perfection of man lies, not in what man has, but in what man is. Private property has really harmed individualism, and obscured it, by confusing a man with what he possesses. It has led individualism entirely astray. It has made gain not growth its aim. So that man thought that the important thing was to have, and did not know that the important thing is to be. It will be a marvelous thing, the true personality of man, when we see it. It will grow naturally and simply, flower-like, or as a tree grows. It will not be at discord. It will never argue or dispute. It will not prove things. It will know everything, and yet it will not busy itself about knowledge. It will have wisdom. Its value will not be measured by material things. It will have nothing, and yet it will have everything, and whatever one takes from it, it will still have, so rich will it be. It will not be always meddling with others, or asking them to be like itself. It will love them because they are different. And yet while it will not meddle with others, it will help all, as a beautiful thing helps us, by being what it is. Art is this intense form of individualism that makes the public try to exercise over it an authority that is as immoral as it is ridiculous. And as corrupting as it is contemptible. It is not quite their fault. The public has always, and in every age, been badly brought up. They are continually asking art to be popular, to please their want of taste, to flatter their absurd vanity, to tell them what they have been told before, to show them what they ought to be tired of seeing, to amuse them when they feel heavy after eating too much, and to distract their thoughts when they are wearied of their own stupidity. Now art should never try to be popular. The public should try to make itself artistic. There is a very wide difference. If a man of science were told that the results of his experiments, and the conclusions that he arrived at, should be of such a character that they would not upset the received notions of the day, or disturb popular prejudice, he would rightly say that such a condition was absurd. If a philosopher were told that he had a perfect right to speculate in the highest spheres, so long as he did not produce any practical effect, or lead to any practical conclusion, he would rightly say that such a condition was absurd. And it is equally absurd to ask the artist to produce art that is not the expression of his own personality, but the expression of some public want, some popular demand. The artist who gives up his personality gives up his art. The poet who writes to order is no poet. The painter who paints to please is no painter. The musician who plays to amuse is no musician. Art is the expression of the soul. And the soul is only expressed when it is free. The moment that an artist takes notice of what other people want, and tries to supply the demand, he ceases to be an artist, and becomes a dull or an amusing craftsman, an honest or a dishonest tradesman. He has no further claim to be considered as an artist. The forms of art are many, and every form has its own value. The value of art is not to be measured by its popularity, or by its utility, or by its morality. The value of art is to be measured by its intensity, by its truth, by its beauty. The forms of art are many, and every form has its own value. The drama, the novel, the poem, the picture, the statue, the symphony, all have their own mode of expression, and each is perfect in its own way. The drama does not aim at telling us what life is, but at showing us what life might be. The novel does not aim at giving us facts, but at giving us truth. The poem does not aim at instructing us, but at delighting us. The picture does not aim at copying nature, but at creating it. The statue does not aim at reproducing a man, but at revealing him. The symphony does not aim at imitating sounds, but at expressing emotions. Each form of art has its own method, its own purpose, its own perfection. The personality of the artist is the source of all art. The personality of the artist is what makes art possible. The personality of the artist is what makes art valuable. The personality of the artist is what makes art eternal. Without the personality of the artist, there would be no art. Without the freedom of the artist, there would be no personality. Without the freedom of the soul, there would be no freedom. And without the freedom of the soul, there would be no individualism. The new individualism, for whose sake socialism is to be welcomed, will be the individualism of the soul. It will be the realization of the soul's infinite possibilities. It will be the freedom to be oneself, and to let others be themselves. It will be the recognition that the soul of man is the most precious thing in the world, and that its development is the only thing that matters. Do you agree that true individualism flourishes only by abolishing private property and freeing art from public control?
This has been an EMC reading from Liberty Myself. To learn more about our project to create decentralized media alternatives, visit libertymyself.com. By creating Liberty Myself, we create liberty for all.